time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur Podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Jeanette Anderson, and I am here today with the fabulous Deb Krier, who is an amazing woman. You're going to find tons of inspiration, education about surviving challenges in life, learning how to figure out how to thrive through those, and really how to be your own best advocate, how to take care of yourself in that journey, and how to call in support. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. And so I will tell you the official word about Deb, and we'll find out the juicy tidbits behind the scenes and launch into our conversation. So welcome, Deb. I'm happy to have you here.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited and so honored to be on your program.
Thank you. And we were just talking before the show. Deb has her own podcast, 1,000 episodes almost soon. That is a lot of talking to a
That is a lot of talking. I talk a lot.
That's a lot of people also that you've given a tremendous amount of profile to.
It's so much fun.
It is actually. What's the secret to the longevity of your podcast? Because that's pretty long.
You know, I have a fabulous person that works with me. And so, that's a big part of it. Is I rely very much on Kim to do an awful big part of what we do. Yep. But it's, just kind of keep going. I think we hear that a lot from podcasters, right? They get to about 30-ish episodes and they think, I don't want to do this again. Once you kind of get over that hump, you just keep going. And my podcast is not monetized. It could be, but I don't want to, just don't want to mess with that. I enjoy talking to really interesting people. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
That helps a lot, because otherwise it gets really, really boring.
It does.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's talk about your topic and your amazing inspirational journey. We're going to be talking about how you've overcome let me find it. Stage triple positive breast cancer and thyroid cancer. And for those of you who have cancer and have been going through your own cancer journey, there's going to be lots of insights from, being on the other side or having gone through the journey a number of different ways and so forth. But also for those of you who that may not be relevant to, you don't have cancer, perhaps you have people in your life that have cancer. The odds are very good because it's so prevalent these days. So we're going to also be talking about how to be a really great support for those people, how not to do the really annoying things that people sometimes do when their friends or family have cancer. And also, really, this is applicable. So much of what we're going to be talking about is applicable to whatever challenges you're going through.
Right.
I guarantee you're going through some challenges. So, or if you aren't now, you will be again someday. So this is a really good conversation around how to get through those and do it with a certain degree of resilience, perhaps some grace, and certainly humor. So
definitely humor.
Yeah, that's very important. And I can tell that's a big part of your way that you've navigated through life.
I have.
So you're in Atlanta, right?
I am.
Been there for quite a while by way of Colorado.
Colorado, yep.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your about you that we wouldn't guess. Oh, wait, I forgot to do your intro. Let me do your intro. Then I will.
That's all right.
Okay, so it's like you're an old friend, and so
we're just chatting over an adult beverage.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so folks, I'll tell you about Deb, and then we'll get into the conversation. So Deb's work centers on empowering individuals navigating through the complexities of cancer through her initiative, tryingnottodie.LIVE or live.
Live.
Provide support, inspiration, and practical guidance to those affected by cancer, drawing from her personal journey with stage 4 triple positive breast cancer and thyroid cancer. Deb's expertise in communications, marketing, and public relations enhances her ability to connect with and uplift the cancer community, and probably every other community you're part of. Through her platform, she fosters resilience, builds supportive communities, and encourages individuals to voice their stories and embrace life fully. Deb's mission is to turn struggles into strengths and promote holistic health, wellness, and spirituality in the face of adversity. Love it. Super, super inspiring and important.
You know, we hear our bios and we're like, ooh.
I'm pretty impressive. Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right, so let's talk about, and by the way, she has a program called I'm Not Fine, and that's perfectly fine. I love that title, so I wanted to slip that in there as well. Which outlines 7 courageous steps to take if you have cancer and want to ensure that cancer never has you. So that and her other podcast, the Business Power Hour, her Facebook community are all platforms that where she provides support, guidance, and inspiration to the cancer community and beyond. So all that said, welcome again. You're so busy, my friend. Okay, and Deb runs a full-time communications marketing firm, so we're going to talk about that as well. So let's start with telling us something about you that we wouldn't guess, maybe something your friends don't even know. What's one little tidbit that kind of gives us an insight into who you really are, not the stuff that we would read about you?
You know, I was born in a teeny tiny little town in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah.
In the back room of the local doctor's office. You know, and this was a long time ago, right? And you know, it was, and it really was just very small town. My graduating class had 32.
Oh, okay.
And that's a big number now. I think they had 8 this year. You know, so, but yeah, it really is. You know how I started from my humble beginnings.
Yes, exactly. You and Dolly Parton.
Okay.
So in the lab, tiny little holler. So tell me a little bit about kind of your journey in general. What did you do as you were kind of growing up, and how did you end up starting your business?
Right. Well, I am an only child. And so I always tell people, so I don't know how to share. But it also meant that I was very independent. And my mom was a very strong, independent person. She just passed away in March. This will give you an idea of what she was like. At her funeral, she wanted the Frank Sinatra version. She was specific about this of I did it my way.
My way.
You know? And so, but I think that's really, you know, a big foundation of who I am. You know, I've been married over 30 years. I think it'll be 33 this year, right? You know, you lose track once you know, but yeah, you know, and I have, you know, I was one of these people, I like school. I have several master's degrees. But I started in communications, and as luck would have it, or, you know, I don't know if it's luck or not, my first job in public relations was with the American Cancer Society. And before that, I had worked for an oncologist. So I tell people now I know just enough to really be dangerous. But, you know, I loved working for ACS. It was a great job. Went from there to several other different positions. I worked as a lobbyist, which is always very different, you know, and politics, you know, and so that's always been something that I learned a lot from. And then I worked for at the point I worked for them, they were the 7th largest corporation in the world. It was a company called ING, and I did corporate communications for them. And to have, in essence, an unlimited budget was very interesting. I mean, yes, we had a budget, but it was so big, you know, you didn't even quite know what you were doing with it. I mean, like I managed the philanthropic program, and our annual budget was almost $1 million, you know, and just for the Denver community. So, you know, it was so much fun. But I went from there to starting my own company, Wise Women Communications. And I love it. I love being my own boss. I love being a consultant. It's very hard work. As you know, anybody who is their own boss, we work 24/7. We don't take time off. We don't get time off, all of these various things, but I really, really enjoy it. And the nice thing is it did give me a lot of flexibility when the world came crashing down. But we do other things. We show dogs. It's the weirdest thing in the world. We show beagles, of all things, and I actually serve on the board of the National Beagle Club of America. And I also still do a lot of volunteer work for the University of Colorado. So there's just all this stuff that's going on in my life, and I was not going to let cancer stop me.
I hear that based on all of this. I love how you just kind of glazed over several master's
several master's degrees.
So how long ago did you start your business?
It's been 30 years.
Wow, you've had your own agency for 30 years. That's a lot. There's a whole podcast episode in terms of surviving and all the stages, like the scaling and the pivoting during COVID and so forth.
Oh yeah.
We'll get to some of that as much as we can. So tell me, in all of this, what do you think your why is? What's your purpose?
Helping others. But let's put another little why in there, having fun. Right? It is, I don't care what we do in life. If we're not having fun, why are we bothering?
Yes.
Are there things that we don't like? Of course.
Right.
But ultimately we need to be having fun.
Yes. Well, and okay. And so helping others so why is that so important to you?
I was raised like that. My mom, from when I was little, I was a volunteer. I did things to help others. And it's just kind of really been a part of my DNA to be the person who helps others. Opening my own firm, how can I help them do business? Things like that. Yes, we want to make money and do all those other things that are the necessary evils. But yeah, how can I help others be successful, and how can I help them have fun, right? And so that's always kind of a big part of it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I just want to say I'm going to erase that little comment about money being a necessary evil. I think it's a wonderful thing.
So this is true. And you know what? We should never be ashamed of saying we need money. Yeah. We want money, and we want to be paid what we are worth as women, right?
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about your cancer journey, because that's obviously kind of the big part of your story. So when were you diagnosed? How did this all come about? And just walk us through the journey a little bit. And then I want to talk to you about, lessons learned.
Right. It was very strange. I went for my annual physical, right? And had my mammogram, did not even get home. And they called and said, you need to come back. And I knew that was not, I didn't smile pretty, And so I went back, had a second mammogram. I was diagnosed with what they call microcalcifications. So these itty bitty little flecks. I didn't have a lump. I didn't have a bump. Didn't have any of that normal type of indicator. I go to Dr. Google, right? What the heck is a microcalcification? Discover that women of a certain age have these. Just happens as the hormones change in our body. The vast majority of time, it's not a problem. Okay. But I'm special. And so, they determined that, it probably was precancer. And so at that point, the diagnosis was stage 0, precancer. Let's not worry too much about this. So I did go see a breast surgeon. She did several biopsies, which came back negative. So we were thinking, hey, this is okay. I didn't even have an oncologist. It was kind of one of those where, just cruising along, and every once in a while I go into a doctor and do something. And then my surgeon said, you know what, we need to pull some lymph nodes. Let's just make sure. And I remember, coming out of surgery and, waking up, and she came in, and you could tell from the look on her face, things were not the way she wanted them to be. And I could tell that I had a really big hole that I hadn't been expecting. And 8 of 12 lymph nodes were positive for cancer. So that meant that I went from stage 0 to basically stage 3, because that meant it had spread. So then we jumped into, oh crap, we need to take care of this. Got an oncologist. who I would, walk on water for. Absolutely love her. And but the discussion with her was, what were we going to do? I chose to go the traditional route. I was going to do chemo, surgery, radiation. That was what I felt would be best for me. But I tell people, you absolutely have to do what feels best for you. Mm-hmm. Because that's going to be where you have your best luck. And it was over 35 years ago that I worked for the oncologist. And I remember even back then, he said 99% of it is in your head. Mm-hmm. And which was not what doctors 35 years ago said, right? And so I really remember him saying that. But I thought, okay, the traditional route is what I wanted. And so we decided on chemo to start. And my doctor said, we're going to throw the book at this. These little speckly specks are floating throughout your body. So we need to really do this. And so she gave me 8 different drugs in one day. That was very entertaining. I discovered that I can have lunch delivered to the oncology room. And because I was there for, it was probably about 9 hours altogether. So go home, feel fine. Halloween came. I had, trick-or-treaters that came. And then I started feeling kind of bleh. But I'd had 8 different chemo drugs, right? Mm-hmm. And then I went from this is not right to, oh crap, call an ambulance. And that was, several days later. Because I'm special, I got a complication that happens less than 1% of the time. Oh my and at that point in time, I was the only person that ever survived it. Wow. I had a complication that in essence made me go into septic shock. And the stat on septic shock is about 75% of the time it is fatal. Luckily, all of my medical team pulled together. But I remember them arguing over how fast I was going to die that day, as in hours, right? And I remember thinking, excuse me, I get a vote. Yeah. And I couldn't say it. I mean, I was, yeah, I mean, it was, and so that was kind of one of the first things. I did not like that doctor, got rid of him. But obviously made it. I was in the hospital for 7 weeks with multiple complications. Septic shock just really did a number on me, but finally got out, was, doing better, and decided, okay, obviously, chemo wasn't going to be something that we were going to do. So I did have a double mastectomy. Mm-hmm. I decided, I'm old. I didn't, it's like, ugh, who wants those things anymore? And more importantly, I didn't want to worry about it. And I didn't want to be lopsided, all of those things. So I just went, and I did not have reconstructive surgery. I just decided, nope, I'm done with this. Got a complication from that my surgeon had never seen. Plunked me back in the hospital on that one. But then, things the ship kind of righted. I actually am still taking a treatment. The HER2 positive part of my diagnosis is I take an infusion. It goes in a port in my shoulder every 21 days. I trot my little self in, and we just will continue that for as long as my body will tolerate it, because that keeps the cancer cells from reforming. Okay. So, going along, having a good time, develop basal skin cancer. And, a doctor said, what do you, what's going on? I said, I got this thing. And they sent me straight to the dermatologist, and the dermatologist went, eek, eek. But they fixed that really very easy. And then last year I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. They were looking for something totally different, didn't find it, but said, hey, you've got a couple lesions on your thyroid. So a year ago tomorrow, I had my thyroid removed, and we caught it so early there was no further treatment. So I was very lucky with that. But yeah, I mean, you just keep plugging along. Okay, kind of like the Energizer Bunny, right?
I was going to say, you have nothing. The Energizer Bunny has nothing on you. So how long has that span been from the time you were first diagnosed?
8 years.
8 years. Okay. Yeah. First of all, I would suggest you stop affirming that you're special, because
I know I want to be normal. Can I go back to a normal?
Yeah, because special is not inviting in the right kinds of things here. And like, ow, what an incredibly difficult and incredibly fraught journey,
Mhm.
obviously,
Mhm.
with a lot of stress and a lot of pain. How, what was the hardest part of all of that for you?
I think the not knowing and feeling kind of out of control, right? You're at the whim of all of these other people that are taking care of you. And I think that that is one of the harder things with especially any type of serious diagnosis is you feel like everybody else are making the decisions for you.
Yeah.
And so it was very important to me to be able to go back and say, no, this is what I'm doing. And when I was not able to do that, knowing that my husband would be the one that would be saying that, and knowing what I wanted him to, to say.
Okay, well, and a couple of really important points there, because I think I have an old mentor teacher who used to say that we should not be giving our powers to M deities,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's just because they have an MD doesn't make them an M deity. And
Right.
and one of the things you mentioned was that you got rid of one of your doctors who was um, focusing on how many hours do you have to live, and
Hmm.
so one thing I would really recommend people do is take charge of the
Hmm.
conversations around
Oh
you
yes.
by
Yep.
not letting
Hmm.
yourself be in the
Hmm.
listening of
Hmm.
people who are not there advocating for you to be healthy, alive,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
thriving.
Right.
Any conversations to the contrary need to
Hmm.
be like taken down the hall.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
so you got rid of that doctor
Hmm.
and
I
got in
actually got rid of three. There
three.
were three that I said, nope, nope, you're not helping me. And here's the thing, they are good doctors.
Yeah.
They just weren't good for me.
Yes. Yep. Well, and you get to have a choice. Just because
Hmm.
they may be the
Right.
best, or they may think they're the
Hmm.
best, or they might have great reps, doesn't
Hmm.
mean they're the right ones for you.
Hmm.
And I think a healing, crisis healing journey, whatever
Hmm.
you want to call it, is a call for us to really step up and take
Hmm.
accountability over our
Hmm.
body, our results,
Right.
etc. So um,
Hmm.
I think that that's awesome that you did that, and obviously it worked out fairly well.
Hmm.
So what's the prognosis now? Because there's probably people that are wondering and worrying.
Hmm. Well, stage 4 breast cancer is not considered curable. It's just kind of, there's that shadow that's always back there, right? But the fact that I have gone 8 years without a problem is a very good sign. And when I developed the thyroid cancer, I did ask my endocrinologist. I play Dr. Bingo. I have lots of different doctors, right? And so I always have to stop and think, who am I talking about? I asked my endocrinologist, is the thyroid cancer a spread from the breast cancer? And he said, no, it's something brand new. He said, thyroid cancer is always a primary. It's never a secondary. So I don't know if that's good or bad. It was
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, okay. But it was very interesting. And you'll love this, especially since, these mature things. When
Yeah.
they told me that they were going to take out my thyroid. Now I have my own general surgeon. He's done at least 5, and I would walk on fire for that man. He is one of the most empathic, wonderful people that there is. I love him. But when I went back in, he went, oh God, you're back.
Yeah.
And of course the staff looked, and of course he and I laugh. But they tell me, we'll put the incision in one of your wrinkles so it won't show. And I went, yay.
Exactly. That's what the true definition of a mixed blessing is.
This is, I know, I was like so glad I'm old enough that I could, have that happen.
That hide things, yeah.
Mhm.
And so tell me a little bit about, because one of the things you also mentioned was the oncologist you worked with a long time
Mhm.
ago who talked about the mind-body connection.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now psychoneuroimmunology
Mhm.
is kind of old hat,
Mhm.
even though there's still a huge portion of the
Mhm.
main medical, sensibilities, Western
Right.
medicine that doesn't get that we
Mhm.
are one whole human
Mhm.
being.
Mhm.
Um, uh, Louise Hay kind of popularized
Mhm.
it in terms of making it more accessible for general people
Mhm.
about
Right.
this means that, this is connected
Mhm.
to that.
Mhm.
So what do you think for yourself was the conclusion you came to in terms of that internal um,
Mhm.
cause or relationship or you know,
You know, it's funny. I never really considered any other type of treatment. And I don't know if that was just because that was always what I thought of was you did chemo, you did surgery, you did radiation. Now I sailed through radiation, which was really funny considering my complexion. I should have burned. Nope. Nope. I had no problem. They'd bring other people in and poke at me and look, and I'm like, stop it. But you know, it was that really, you know, my that but I felt that that course was my best course to go forward. Like I have people now who say, why are you still taking the infusions? Because they're very hard on me. I still feel that that is the best thing for me to continue with, but other people feel very differently. And you know, and that is wonderful for them as long as it's an educated decision. You know, and you know, folks, Dr. Google is not our friend. You know, find somebody that is good. But it is now a combination because, like you said, they have figured out we have to bring in nutritionists. We do have to bring in mental health people if needed. You know, all sorts of different things to treat the whole body and not the diagnosis.
Yes. Yeah, the whole human being, not just the body, mind, spirit, all of it. So
Right.
so for you, was there an element of, because, so for example, my brother died of cancer a while back, 10 years ago. And one of the things that he said right towards the end when I talked to him, and we were having, you know, a very lucid conversation around what was real for him. And I said, why do you think you have cancer? And he said, it was my only way out. He couldn't he couldn't say no to his drug addicted son, and he couldn't say no to his extraordinarily codependent and dysfunctional partner, wife, whatever, because he was so enmeshed with them, and he couldn't leave, and he couldn't say no to them, but he couldn't live with them. So his option was to die. And he said, yeah, I created the cancer because it was the only way I saw to get out of all of that. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, did he consciously do that? Perhaps not. Did he, you know,
But he did have maybe that mindset of I can't go on.
yes, and that kind of awareness towards the end of, I guess this might be my way out. And so I think there's an element of taking a look at what might be going on, you know, inside, underneath all of that. Was any of that an aspect of your journey for you? And not just in terms of treatment, but just in terms of the considering of what this is about?
You know, I was annoyed. I truly was annoyed. You know, when I got the initial diagnosis, I very distinctly remember telling my doctor, I'm sorry, I don't have time for this. You know, and it's like, no, it's not in my schedule. And then when they, you know, when my doctor called to tell me about the third cancer in my thyroid, I said words that we can't repeat. And she laughed because, you know, we're in the South. We don't say words like that. And she laughed and she said, that's why you're going to be just fine. But, you know, I don't think it was, you know, I did do all the genetic testing. Nothing popped up there. Now I do have an aunt who had thyroid cancer, so you know, maybe, but you know, it happened, and maybe it happened to me because I could deal with it. You know, and you know, it is because you do wonder, you know, did I do something to cause it? Did I, you know, because I'm a lazy slug and I don't eat well, you know, but
not even necessarily cause it in that kind of, you know, blame sense, but is there something about this that is part of my spiritual evolution? Is there something that is perhaps a belief that I have that might be manifesting? Is there something about this that might be my body's way of saying, slow the hell down, stop pushing?
There's definitely that.
A lot of times sickness is, for me, I can guarantee I'm going to have a flu or a cold within, you know, a month when I've been pushing.
Yep.
That's typically my body's go-to is like,
stop.
Stop. So let me just see what I can find here. So, because I think our bodies ultimately want to serve us. It's just they get a little confused sometimes about how to do that.
Right.
You know? So, what's been one of the biggest lessons you learned in this journey?
I think, you know, that we really are in charge. You know, But more importantly, we have to live every single day.
Mhm.
Who knows when, if my cancer will come back. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so, it is, how are we living each day? So it's getting rid of the toxic people in our lives, not watching the news. I'm down here in the States, the news is right now. Right. And, bringing more joy and more love into your life, and consciously thinking, what do I want to do? Back to your why. Is this really going to be something that benefits me? And I think that is kind of what it is. What are you going to do with this?
Yes. Well, as the line in the poem is, what are you going to do with your one wild and precious life?
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the things that I think is significantly that you mentioned, we get to choose,
Mm-hmm.
the choosers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but what did you mean by that when you said we're in charge? What
Mm-hmm.
does that mean to you? In charge of what?
I'm in well, I'm in charge of my medical care.
Mhm.
Now I do take quite a bit of guidance, obviously, from my doctors. And I joke and I say, the oncologist is kind of the one who's in charge. But things there are, I'm in charge now how I go forward. I'm in charge with how I deal with people.
Mhm.
I am in charge with how I'm going to spend my time. Some of the volunteer work I do isn't always fun, and so I can choose how I'm going to react to it. And
Mhm.
it's funny because some people have said, well, how come you don't respond? And I'm like, why? Why am I going to, do I know that it was there? Yes. But why am I going to cause myself more angst?
Yes.
And so it is that choice.
Yeah.
There's kind of that saying, we don't want our headstone to say, I wish I would have.
Yes. Yeah.
And so what are those bucket list things? You
Mhm.
might not be able to afford them, but how can you do something that's going to bring you joy also?
Exactly. Or find a way to afford them. Um,
Right. Mhm.
yeah, in Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, one of
Mhm.
he wrote about his experience in Auschwitz, and then the second
Mhm.
half of the book is about logos therapy, his
Mhm.
brand of psychology. And one of the main contentions that he had was that the people in the death camps, the ones who survived, were the ones that had a purpose bigger than them,
Mhm.
the ones who controlled how they thought of things,
Mhm.
versus the ones who became a victim to the external influence
Right.
and so forth.
Mhm.
That, they would have the same amount of rice as the
Mhm.
next person, but this person had this kind of thinking
Mhm.
towards it, and this person had
Mhm.
this kind of resilient
Mhm.
thinking towards it. They survived, the others
Mhm.
would die. And that prompted him to write out his
Mhm.
psychology.
Mhm.
It's one of the most inspiring books that I've read, and certainly
Mm.
impactful. But it really is a lot about how do we choose to frame things? What
Mhm.
story we tell? Do we
Mhm.
have a meaning that is bigger than us?
Right.
What is your meaning that's bigger than you, that's pulled you forward so much?
Then how can I help others? I did start an initiative, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But my business coach was
Mhm.
who convinced me to do that. And we were talking about business stuff, and then she shook her finger at me on Zoom, right? And she said, you didn't go through everything you went through without using it to help others.
Mhm.
And I've always been like that. But I'm they, even before any of this, like they would bring the student doctors in and have them talk to me, and and or go have me talk to patients,
Mhm.
and all of these things. And so it really is, how can I help others? Do I have bad days? Yes.
Mhm.
Do I have pity parties? Of course.
Right.
That is normal. And I think that's one of the things when you see people who are happy all the time, there's something else that's going on. And those are usually the people that we see that have massive breakdowns,
Yes.
because they never acknowledged that there were things that were wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, how can I be of service?
Okay, so having that cause and that framing has helped you
Mhm.
with how you embrace life.
Mhm.
What are some other tools or techniques or ways of looking at things that's help you foster hope, because hope can be hard to find in the midst of all of the, shit that's going on. So how do you foster hope? And tell us a little bit about supportive community and how that was.
Yes.
For you.
I think one of the big things is we absolutely have to be honest. I mean, you mentioned, I'm not fine, that because that's the thing, people, Deb, how are you doing? And automatically we say, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's the store clerk or the doctor or whoever, I'm fine.
Yeah.
We're almost never fine. We could be really, really good, or we could be, somewhere down on the other end. We have to be honest. We have to be honest first with ourselves, but we do have to be honest with our medical team and our loved ones to say, I am doing fabulous today, or today sucks. I'm having a really bad day. So it is about being honest. And with that community, what I started was called tryingnottodie.LIVE. And it's funny because I am a marketing person, so it was supposed to be tryingnottodie.com, and that was taken. How rude, right? and then tryingnottodie.live was available, and I was like, well, duh, right? But it was all about how we get so caught up in trying to not die,
yes,
that we forget that we have to live. And so we started that with the concept that we are warriors. I am a cancer warrior. I'm not a patient. I'm not, I'm a warrior because I am in the fight for my life. And someone told me very early on, they said, they sent me this thing, and it says, fate says to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm. And the warrior responds, I am the storm. But the really important thing is no warrior does it alone. They absolutely have to build a tribe. And, just like you have to get the right medical people, you have to get the right friends, the right supporters, and wish everybody else well. But who is your tribe? And, I've been doing this, like I said, 8 years. So some of my tribe members have changed, but it is, who are you going to build around you that are that support system? I'm having my 34th medical procedure where they're going to knock me out that, on Thursday. 34. My brain is a little befuddled by now, but with all this anesthesia, but I know that I am not alone. When I am in there. I have a tattoo that has warrior surrounded with my angels. So my mom is on there, my dad is on there, very, friends, people like that. But I also know that I have the thoughts, the prayers, the support of my community. And so I am not alone. But I do remember thinking one time with one of those multitudes of procedures, well, I can't die. All those people will be mad at me.
It's like, we worked so hard to keep you here.
And look what you did. You died.
Exactly. How dare you? Deb, honestly, if you have not instituted it yet, I highly recommend that you go to your medical team and suggest that you are 3 punch cards in, and for every 10 procedures, you should get 1 free.
I know. I think I need a free one. And it's just like, what's my bonus?
Free ones now, because you've got.
I know.
In fact, I think you should take the punch card in with you and just say, we're shooting this now. And you guys are behind, so I get 3 free ones.
Yes, you need to, yeah.
Okay, so not to be too flip, because that's like, holy shit.
You do have to, when I go in for treatment now, I never do this to a new person, a new medical person, because it would totally freak them out. But when they say, what is your name and date of birth? I look at them and I smile sweetly and I say, Anastasia Beaverhausen. And in the infusion room, they have decided that it is Princess Anastasia Beaverhausen.
No doubt. Okay, so part of obviously what you're modeling here is advocacy, calling in support, maintaining a sense of humor, enrolling other people in that positive frame of reference. How many friends have you, what did you say, changed? Or how many friends have you lost through this journey? And what was that about for you?
It was very strange. And it was right at the very start, where when I told them, poof, and so some of the people that I thought would be my biggest supporters could not handle it. I remember, when I got the diagnosis, I'd gone to the doctor by myself because this wasn't supposed to be anything bad. And so called my husband, called my mom, and then I texted my best friend back in Colorado, and she didn't respond. And I thought, it's busy day. I mean, she works for the government, texted her later on, still didn't respond. So then I'm thinking, if I got the wrong number, maybe she's flying. I mean, I'm giving her all sorts of things. By the next day, when she hadn't responded, my little feelings were hurt, right? Mm-hmm. But she responded and she said, I am having trouble with this. Give me a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I did. I mean, that is part of this. We have to honor and give others grace. Mm-hmm. She's come out here twice to help. But she needed that time to kind of get her head around it. But yeah, there were some people that I really did think would be my biggest supporters, and they couldn't handle it, but there were also people who I didn't even think knew I existed, mm-hmm. that have stepped up. And I think that has been one of the amazing things is, when you have this, where these people are like, what can I do? Or they send you things. Oh my gosh, some of the gifts that I got are just absolute treasures.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk about that for just a second. You're mm-hmm. a strong, dynamic, independent woman, mm-hmm. have been in charge of your own business for a long time. How good were you at receiving support when this whole thing started?
Not good. And more importantly, I didn't want to ask for it.
Yes.
One of the big things I remember, and so when I was initially in the hospital and so sick, in and out of ICU, by then my hair fell out. And actually it was coming out. And this was so funny because, when you have 8 different drugs, I mean, your hair is definitely going to fall out. And a friend of mine who grooms dogs had said she would come in and we didn't expect to be in the hospital, but my hair was coming out in clumps. I mean, it really, and it was like, I'm not dealing with this. She came, but the funny part was the doctors made rounds that morning and I looked like this. They made rounds in the afternoon and I'm bald as can be and they're freaking out. I mean, it was like, but yeah, it was, but then I had an NG tube. So I had the tube that went in my nose and then was taped to the side of my face. I lost a lot of weight. I looked horrible. And I did not want people to visit me. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want them to see me like that. And then I finally realized they needed it as much as I needed it. Mm. And it was difficult. I mean, I had people who came in and cried. Yeah. I had people who came in and couldn't handle it. And then I had people who came and camped out. And I'm like, I need you to go. You've been here long enough.
So what advice do you have for people about how to deal with how people react? Because some people react mm-hmm. poorly. They might have stupid questions or mm-hmm. make stupid comments, mm-hmm. or they don't say anything because mm-hmm. they don't know what to say. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give people as far as how to deal with people when in that phase?
Right. Don't ignore it. It is, and it is okay to say, Jeanette, I'm sorry. Yeah. I am really sorry. Maybe you can't say anything more than that, but don't ignore it. And it's okay to ask stupid questions. I had some pretty stupid questions that were asked. I preferred the stupid questions to the no questions. Yeah. But one of the big things is people will tell me we don't know what to do or say. Mm-hmm. So then they don't do or say anything. And then we think they don't love us. Right. Yeah. And so I tell people, be specific, don't just say, tell me if there's anything you need, because my brain is so messed up. I cannot focus on something specific. And more importantly, I don't want to bother you. So I'm not going to ask. But if you say, can I go to the grocery store for you? Can I take your kids to the movies? Can I just come and sit with you? Can I bring you dinner? Then my brain can focus on that. And so then that works. So be specific and then let it go from there. One of my friends was telling me that she was the caregiver for her husband who was, he had cancer and was, he was in hospice, and her friend showed up and said, we're here to clean house. Mm-hmm. And her first thought was she was absolutely mortified. And then she went, okay, because she realized her house needed cleaned. Yeah. But so maybe not be quite like that, but yeah, meal things, meal trains. I know people who just put coolers out because people were bringing them food. and all of those things, even if it's not something you can eat. I had people who sent things that I couldn't eat. My husband thought it was great, but the thought was what mattered. And even one of the things, people told me we didn't know what to say, and I said, Hallmark has cards.
Yes, they do.
And I still have them. I have all of those cards.
Yes. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at receiving now?
6.
Really, man, you're a tough case. Okay. So what would you tell people who are tough cases like you about learning to receive?
Somebody else told me this, and I think it was probably when I was going, well, I don't really need, and they said, honor them by allowing them to help.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you do get the irony of my purpose is to help people.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to let anyone else live.
Right. Yeah, I'm just going to be tough and no. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm not only are you going to be tough, but I'm not going to let them live into their purpose.
Right.
People.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
just like, no, you don't get to give. No, I'm going to shut that down. No, I'm not gonna...
I need to honor them and show them the grace to be able to do it. Even if it's not what I needed, that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and to get good at asking for what you do need. I think one of the things about all of this is it's an opportunity to learn how to ask for what we want.
Right.
How to it's an opportunity to practice surrender, which, is not necessarily the people like us, not necessarily a strong suit, right? And to really relax into the arms of trust that we are loved and supported, and really ultimately in the midst of all of the fraughtness, we really are safe at a core level. The body may not be here for a while, but we really are taken care of. So what's one piece of advice you would give to people who are going through something right now? Might be a cancer challenge, might be another health challenge, might be just struggling with their business. What's one piece of advice you would give them about a place to find the resilience, or a way to build the resilience, or a place to look for something that will get them through to the other side?
I think first you have to recognize that you need that. And I tell people, honor what you're going through and give yourself the grace to deal with that. I think we get on this guilt trip. We shouldn't be doing this. So our business should be successful, whatever it is. No, it's okay to say, like we were saying, I need help. Maybe this is not the path that I'm supposed to be on. And it does not mean that I'm a failure. It means I'm going to learn from this and go do something different.
Yes, exactly. And listen to the call, to the longing, to the thing that's going on underneath in your spirit, in your soul, that's saying, this is a time to go in as much as it is to go out for help.
Right.
And so I want to talk to you about your business for just a few minutes. Tell us a little bit more about tryingnottodie.LIVE. Tell us a little bit more about what that's about. How do people...
So it is about supporting those who have cancer and supporting those who are the supporters, right? The caregivers, the medical people. And so it is an online community. We have a great little private Facebook group, and I keep it private. Everybody's let in, but I keep it private because that keeps out the people who are going to cure us. I only had one of those, that was going to cure me. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But it is, how do we support others? If you are a business person, how do you support your employees? Here in the States, we have lots of really fun laws that pertain. And so that gets really challenging. I mean, I cannot go to an employee and say, Jeanette, I think there's an issue. Are you sick? Can't do that. If you can just choose to not say anything. You could also say, yeah, here's what's going on, but you can't tell anyone. So then how do I deal with the other employees who are going, well, how come you get to go home at 3 every day? And all of these things. It's, and how do you tell your clients, right? My clients, and I worried about that. how was I to tell them? Now I dropped off the face of the earth. And they were right there. They were, what do we need to do? What can we do to help? But so many times people worry that if I tell them I am sick or that I have a family member who is sick, they will think I can't do my job.
Right.
Well, my philosophy is if they're kind of like that, then I don't want to be around them. But yeah, my clients are my friends, and they really are. How can we support you? And I tell them, every 21 days, they know that I have these infusions, and for 2 days, I'm probably gone. I may or may not work, but and they're like, okay. But yeah, if they said, well, we don't want to work with you anymore, fine. I didn't want to work with them to start with. But so in trying not to die.live, it really is, how are we going to live our lives? And how, what are we leaving behind us? But there are things, like we show people, these are questions to ask your doctors, things that we're scared to ask. One of the big things I say is, especially your first really big appointment where they're describing, you've got this and this is your odds and this is what we're going to do and all that stuff. Take somebody with you.
Yes.
Thank God COVID is done, because that was one of the hardest things. Take somebody with you, write down, have your questions. One of the things on my oncologist office, in every exam room, it says, do not leave this room if your questions were not answered.
Oh, that's awesome. And
I love that. Isn't that great?
But
We should never be afraid to ask those questions. Now we are afraid, right? Because we don't want to know, which is why you might need somebody there. But our brains are also shorting out. You tell me, hey, you've got the flu, and I come home and I go, I don't know when I'm supposed to take my medicine.
Yeah.
You tell somebody you have a life-threatening disease and your brain really shorts out. Yeah, so exactly. Make sure that you have that support system and you know what questions you're to ask. I tell, like we mentioned, Dr. Google is not our friend.
Yes.
You can get a little bit of information from it, but then, make sure you're going to reliable sources. And so we have resources where, we direct people. Obviously, since I used to work for the American Cancer Society, that is one of the resources that we use. But yeah, it's about how are we educating ourselves, either to deal with it ourselves or with others.
Well, and education is a big component, because the more we know, the more we can be in the driver's seat. And staying in the driver's seat is so empowering. Being in mystery, being, not clear, taking ourselves out of the driver's seat is where we really get scared and disempowered, because we're no longer taking charge of our life. And so I think that's really, really valuable to get educated, even though you don't want to. It still is really important.
Make them explain those big words.
Yeah, exactly. And to talk English to you, so that you understand it. And because, there's so much stuff in our society, especially for women, but about approval and not wanting to challenge authority. It can be very challenging to challenge someone in authority, especially surgeons. They tend to be even a little more arrogant, a little more, don't be, challenging me.
I went to school for 11 bazillion years. I know what's best.
Yes. And so really having an advocate helps. Take someone with you, record notes as well.
Yes.
You may not be able to keep up with the writing notes, and record it. And if they don't want you to, then that is
a red flag. I remember, 35 years ago when I worked for the American Cancer Society, we told people, and of course this was long before cell phones, right? But we told them, record it. And if your doctor has a problem with that, there is a different problem.
Yes, exactly. One that you need to go find a different doctor for. Okay, so let's very quickly just wrap up with a little bit of information about you and your business world. So tell us what your company does.
So it is Wise Women Communications. We are a full service agency. We provide marketing, and we provide predominantly support for social media, how to use social media as a marketing tool. And for some reason, I have kind of fallen into the niche, because we're all supposed to niche, right? Of working with senior living communities and
Oh,
helping them to reach their target audience. And I tell people their target audience is this face right here,
mhm.
my age, my demographic. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on IG, as somebody called it the other day. I'm, and so how does, if I'm my target market, how do we reach those? And I
Mhm.
love doing that. I mean, the communities that I work with, and there's about 15 of them, they text me. They've been texting me, this whole time we've been talking, pictures, and I get very attached to those little people. But that is what we do. We do tend to focus on working with senior living communities, but we do have other clients.
Awesome. And so you started your business 33
Mhm.
years ago.
Mhm.
You've been married 33 years. You started your
Yeah,
business.
I was right around all the same
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
Mhm.
30 years ago. And
Mhm.
so what's been one of the bigger challenges in
Mhm.
terms of as you age, right? And I've
Mhm.
gone through all of these
Mhm.
healing challenges and so
Mhm.
forth. What was some of the bigger challenges that you faced in the last few years?
I think to not be left behind, especially with technology, right? I mentioned I'm not on TikTok, all of these various things. Staying relevant at our age is very difficult. But the nice thing is there's a whole bunch of us.
Yes.
And so it's, developing kind of that peer network of people and making sure that you surround yourself with good people. But yeah, it is a challenge to keep up with technology and all of those various things. And but at the same point, we're thinking, I've done an awful lot. I think I deserved a rest.
Yeah, there's that too. Yes, there is a lot of us, just under a
Mhm.
billion people around the
I know.
planet,
Mhm.
either have to keep working, and
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it is the majority of older
Mhm.
people, 65%
Right.
approximately,
Mhm.
have to
Mhm.
continue working.
Mhm.
And of the other 35%, a lot of them will choose to keep working
Mhm. Right.
well to their 70s and 80s
Mhm.
and 60s because
Mhm.
they just don't want to spend the next 20 or 30 or
Right.
40 years golfing or knitting or
Mhm.
only golfing and
Mhm.
only knitting.
Yeah.
And they want to stay vibrant and
Mhm.
contributing
Mhm.
and so forth. What advice would you give people who are, let's break it down, two,
Mhm.
thinking of getting going? So they might be,
Mhm.
someone transitioning out of a career, they might
Mhm.
be someone who has been retired for a few years and they're
Mhm.
out of their tree.
Mhm.
They're just thinking about getting going with a
Mhm.
business. What advice would you give them?
There's so many resources out there, and so your podcast is a fabulous one. And you mentioned my podcast, the Business Power Hour. There's lots of books. There's clearly lots of things, but figure out what it is that you want to do. And niche it down. You're not going to serve the world. Don't we wish we could? But no, not even McDonald's or Starbucks or Walmart serves the world.
Yes.
They know what their niche is. So
Mhm.
figure out what you want to do, and then figure, okay, is it going to be a business? Is it going to be a hobby? Is there somebody else doing it that I can partner with?
Mhm.
All of those things, and really think about, what do you want out of it?
Mhm.
Is it just that you're bored?
Mhm.
Well, then maybe you should go into volunteering, or whatever those things are. But the most important thing is, again, coming back to who can you help? We have this knowledge that took us 60 years to get, right? Or 70 or 80.
Yeah.
How can we be mentors?
Mhm.
And I think that is probably one of the best things to do, is how can we help others? And it
Mhm.
could be that I'm mentoring somebody who's 80. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, how can we, what can we impart to those who are behind us?
Yeah. Well, when I talk to people, there's kind of two camps. Either well, what do I have to offer? I
Hmm.
might be out of date, I might be
Hmm.
obsolete, etc. And to those people, I would say, are you freaking kidding me? You've
Right. Hmm.
done it for this many years. You have a wealth of expertise and experience
Right.
and
Hmm.
value and wisdom. And if you don't, go get you
Hmm.
some, because
Hmm.
like, what have you been
Hmm.
doing? And
I know people are graduating from college in their 90s.
yes, exactly. And so you have a ton of value. So get over yourself and get out there and
Hmm.
contribute. And to the other people who say, well, yes, I have lots of value, but they don't want me, like the I don't want me and they don't want me.
Hmm.
That's true. There is ageism and
Hmm.
it is a barrier. And
Hmm.
there are a billion of us, and this is shifting on the planet.
Hmm.
I say quite often that the face of business is changing. It's getting a
Mm-hmm.
lot more wrinkled, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a different kind of innovation that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tremendous amount of wisdom that
Mm-hmm.
cannot be lost from our society.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There is so much that we have to offer. So,
Mm-hmm.
ladies and gentlemen, if you are sitting there thinking, oh, it's too late, or I'm dealing with all this life
Mm-hmm.
stuff, I'm hoping that you're taking from Deb's story that you still can and contribute, even when you're going through the thick and the thin of it.
Right.
And maybe you slow down, maybe you do it differently,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you do it with more support.
Mm-hmm.
You matter. You matter at
Yes, you
every
do. Mm-hmm.
every stage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what piece of advice would you give someone who is keeping going? So they might have been in the game like you and I, 30, 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they're tired, and
Mm-hmm.
but they still got to keep working, or they still want to
Mm-hmm.
keep working. What piece of advice would you give to those who need to keep going?
Again, figure out what your why is. Are you working just because you need a paycheck, you need insurance, you need all those other things? Okay, that's one thing. I had somebody tell me something not long ago when I was whining. I had these too many things to do and whiny, whiny, whiny. And this person, God bless her, said, delegate. And so I've really embraced, and the funny thing is, training the people who were used to me just doing it all
Yes.
to say, no, no, no. I trust you. You are smart. You are intelligent. You are skilled. I'm here as your backup, but you can do it. And so think about, how can you shift and do things? Technology is great, right? I tell people, because people have said, how are you able to work through all this? Well, hospitals and doctors' offices have really good Wi-Fi. And that really is true. I mean, I've been in the hospital, my clients never knew. But embrace that, figure out how it is. I have cousins who are in their 80s who are nomads.
Yeah.
They have their trailer that and they never stay. They've never stayed anywhere more than maybe a month or so, and the least they stay is a couple of days. But yeah, they think that's the greatest thing in the world. With the way technology is, they're able to continue doing everything that they do wherever they are.
Exactly. Well, I call myself polyhomerous. I used to say homeless, but then people would get distressed. Now I say polyhomerous, and they just get confused. But I've been a digital nomad since 2016, and it is not for everyone, but
No.
I love that lifestyle, and we have those choices, and we have those options and opportunities that we didn't have before. So, Deb, you are fascinating, inspiring, and obviously kick-ass woman. How do people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you, either on the marketing communication side, or the trying not to die side?
Got a couple websites. The easy one is debkrier.com, DEBKRIER.com. I'm a marketing person, so I brand myself, right? And then tryingnottodie.live. So www.tryingnottodie.live, LIVE. And there's lots of ways on there to reach out. Obviously the Facebook group is something that we hope people, and you can just join. I mean, we have fun. I post inspirational messages every day. So it's not a place where we feel sorry for ourselves, but we support ourselves.
Lovely. Love that. Love that. Holy cow, you post every day. That's commitment. Okay, so
it's called scheduling programs.
Yeah. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the wisdom you've shared and the inspiration and the example. And I love the commitment to staying on purpose with your why and staying in the game because that's what you're committed to, because you said so.
We are not done.
Yes, we are hashtag not done by a long shot. So, gee, that sounds like a good tagline.
It does. What a good tagline. I got you all choked up with it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for being here, Deb. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're struggling with any of this and you have not created support, please do. Please take care of yourself, love yourself, go and get support for you internally, emotionally, physically, medically, in every way. You deserve it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.